Their planet's in pieces, so the Klingons need some new space. Are Kirk, Spock, and the rest of the Star Trek crew ready to share the universe with the Klingon Empire? Fire. Captain's Log. E-Features sets course for the Undiscovered Country. Hello again, I'm Ken Taylor, your host of E-Features. Now, each week, this show turns a new film inside out in just 30 minutes. And this week, E-Features Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Captain Kirk, Spock, Bones, Uhura, Scotty. You know, after 25 historic years of Star Trekking, their names roll off the tongue almost as if they're family. And after we beam them all into your living room this half hour, you just might feel like they really are. So prepare to depart as E-Features begins its in-depth exploration of the undiscovered country.
The Klingon Empire has 50 years of life left in it.
To offer Klingons a safe haven within Federation space is suicide.
They're animals. Jim, they are dying.
Guess who's coming to dinner?
The Undiscovered Country.
We come in peace, and you blatantly defy that. We haven't fired. I shall blow you out of the stars.
Battle stations.
Incoming!
Signal our surrender.
Captain?
This is fun.
The previous 5 Star Trek films have earned an astronomical total of $398 million, and Part 6 should keep the profits soaring. The Undiscovered Country was made for a very cost-efficient $30 million. But enough money talk. Let's talk a little trivia. Now, do you know what the T stands for in James T. Kirk? Well, Tiberius, of course. Tiberius? I guess it's like most middle names. Well, at any rate, it's time to check in with the man behind the strange middle name, William Shatner.
The theme of Star Trek VI is taken from today's news, and yet it seems like tomorrow.
Throughout his 25-year tour of duty as Captain James Tiberius Kirk, William Shatner has conquered incredible worlds unknown to man. But in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, he is pitted against a most common foe, prejudice.
They're animals, Jim. There is an historic opportunity here. Don't believe them. Don't trust them. They are dying. Let them die.
But for Shatner, the challenge of portraying Captain Kirk, who struggles to overcome his hatred of the Klingons, was just another day at the starship.
The struggle as an actor to find the right way to do something is part of what I do for a living. And the struggle to tell the story, to be involved in telling the story, and trying to find areas that would appeal to people and appeal to me at the same time, and solving the problems when doing the series, solving the problems, actors' problems with the speed that you need in the series, where unique things were asked of me, double roles and things like that, and woman in your body. I mean, how do you do those things? And in the films, as every 2-3 years would go by, to try and maintain what I had had before and bring to it something new. These were all wonderful problems that are what I paid for to solve.
If this is your spot, we'll move on.
We had a big sequence in snow, but the snow was plastic, and breathing that plastic. But I had to roll around it in the fights. Again, all kinds of typical problems on Star Trek. This is the Starship Enterprise. Captain James T. Kirk commanding.
As the only actor to ever have the privilege of declaring those words, Shatner is the envy of Star Trek fans worldwide, who wonder what a thrill it must be to sit in the captain's chair.
No, it's kind of uncomfortable. I sit down and go, oh, gosh. Oh, get this off me. No, the chair is a chair, you know. Where's the set? Oh, okay.
But surely it must be exhilarating to don the captain's uniform.
The costumes, they're kind of snug.
While Shatner looks fondly at forever being known as Captain Kirk, he points out that he was, and always will be, an actor first. There's plenty more Star Trek magic ahead as we encounter the rest of the Enterprise crew, including its newest Vulcan recruit. Plus, we'll pay tribute to the creative genius behind Star Trek itself, Gene Roddenberry. He even has a song dedicated to him. Welcome Welcome back to E-Features, the show that takes an in-depth look at a different film each week. I'm your host, Ken Taylor, and this week, E-Features Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Now, in the television and film history of Star Trek, many famous faces have beamed aboard the Enterprise. The original series featured guest appearances by actors like Joan Collins, Sally Kellerman, and Ricardo Montalban, who reprised his role in the second film, The Wrath of Khan. And now you can add Kim Cattrall to the list. In The Undiscovered Country, Cattrall enlists on the Enterprise as Vulcan Lieutenant Valeris.
Scotty.
Hi, sir. The Dock Master.
Control tower reading, sir.
From this mark.
All right, clear.
Aft thrusters.
Thank you, Lieutenant. 1/4 impulse power.
Captain, may I remind you that regulations specify thrusters only while in space dock?
While Lieutenant Valeris might seem a strange addition to the Enterprise, don't forget that the crew has always been an eclectic mix. For instance, Chicago-born Walter Koenig portrays Commander Chekhov as a Russian, while Nichelle Nichols' character of Uhura proved so distinctive that none other than Dr. Martin Luther King convinced her to remain on the television series as a positive role model for African Americans.
They're preparing to fire.
Shields up, Captain.
Captain, our shields.
Shields up, Captain.
Signal our surrender.
Captain?
We surrender.
As Lieutenant Uhura, the Starship Enterprise's communications officer, Nichelle Nichols has been called the supreme switchboard operator. Even Oscar winner Whoopi Goldberg has said that in the 1960s, Uhura represented the fact that there was a future for black folks. A true pioneer, Nichols made history in 1968 when Uhura shared television's first interracial kiss with Captain Kirk. For a woman who broke both racial barriers and new ground, it's not surprising that Nichols felt strongly about the prejudicial theme of Star Trek VI.
I hated it. When I first saw it, I said, the cast and crew of the Starship Enterprise, prejudiced, racist, not us.
I offer into the record this excerpt from the captain's personal log.
I've never trusted Klingons, and I never will. I've never been able to forgive them for the death of my boy.
And then as they rewrote it and defined it and shaped it, I realized, of course, each and every one of us, if you're a thinking human being, you have a prejudice tucked in there somewhere if it's against the color red, you know? And certainly would be about our arch enemy who has tried to annihilate not only us, but half of the Federation.
Fellow cast and crew member Walter Koenig, who's been playing Pavel Chekhov since Star Trek's second season on television, had his opinion on the film's controversial theme.
The plot put us into a situation where we had to confront our feelings and overcome them, and, you know, and achieve a higher state of being in terms of our humanity. And so it was important. It was an important device for the storytelling. Whether or not it is consistent with what we have done in the past is open to conjecture.
In Star Trek VI, Nichols had to learn how to speak the Klingon language, which was a challenging experience that required some homework.
And suddenly there are all of these books and dictionaries on Klingon that they've taken out of the library, old books, not on tapes as you would imagine. Because whoever spoke to Klingons in Klingon. And that was so funny. And then it took on its own life.
But for Koenig, working on the film wasn't challenging enough.
I wasn't pleased with my participation in Star Trek VI. All that is in the past. I saw the finished product. I thought it was a very exciting motion picture. And I am now, you know, very happy and very heartily endorse this picture with great enthusiasm because of that.
Now, while Chekhov has been stuck in the same job for the past 25 years, Sulu's career has certainly rocketed into warp speed. In Star Trek VI, George Takei finds his character at the helm of his own starship, the Excelsior. Back on Earth, the E-Features discovered Sulu at the premiere of Star Trek VI.
Finally, Starfleet recognizes his proper place in the captain's seat, only a few inches away, but a world of difference there.
I have an energy wave at 240 degrees Mark 6 port, sir. Visual.
Whenever the Enterprise has been in a jam, and let's face it, when hasn't it been, there have always been two crewmen you could turn to, Dr. McCoy and Engineer Scott. So why don't we turn to them right now?
Scotty.
Hi, sir.
Did you find the engine room?
Right where I left it, sir.
Stand by.
He's the Mr. Fix-It of the Enterprise, Montgomery Scott, affectionately known as Scotty. But actor James Doohan was actually a handyman long before Star Trek.
I can remember a time, though, when I was about 14, and I took my mother's washing machine apart, and then she came down to the basement and going to wash some blankets. And she looked on the floor, and there was all the parts of the washing machine. She said, "How long do you expect?" It took me about a half an hour to tear it apart, you know. She said, "How long do you expect to before you have it together again?" And I said, "Well, I think about an hour." It took me about 2.5 hours. But anyway, so she got to wash her blankets, and it worked.
It's a shame for a good Scotsman to admit it, but I'm not up on Milton.
Doohan originated his role on the television series, and 25 years as an engineer on the Enterprise has given him an interesting perspective on the new series, Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh, that's a pretty good show. But the first thing I think about is, boy, what a budget. You know, they have all the money in the world to do just about whatever they want, you know. Unbelievable. And they can hire anybody they want, too. We had to scrimp on cast and quarter-inch plywood and everything else and use the cheapest paint. They have stainless steel and 1-inch thick rubber and any numbers of members of cast they want and everything else. So Paramount didn't do that to us when we were young and in our prime.
While DeForest Kelley didn't join the cast of Star Trek until after the pilot was completed, he's been around long enough to have his own reaction to The Next Generation.
I don't follow the show because when I look at it, it's like stepping back in time saying, look, I'm looking at something I did, and it's not us. And it's rather hard for me to get with it, so I really haven't followed it. I love everybody over there, and I think I'm very happy for them. I truly am. It's nothing negative. It's just that I can't get with it.
To you, Chancellor Gorkon, one of the architects of our future.
As a doctor, McCoy confronts his prejudices in Star Trek VI like no other crew member. He must try to save the life of an injured Klingon. The emotional scene took its toll on Kelley.
That was a scene that, when I read it, I knew it would be a very difficult scene to do. And that was my greatest concern in the film, was that scene. Because it's a thing that, with all this horrible thing that's going on, has to be played with such deep sincerity that it's a fine line to hold it, to dramatize it, and you know it's unreal and make it real. So I could relax after we shot that scene. I thought it would never come. It seemed like it was toward the end of the movie that we did it.
Now that the movie is wrapped, the future is up in the air for the Enterprise crew. But it was business as usual for the cast during the last day of shooting.
It wasn't as emotional as I expected. We all kind of walked away like, well, I'll see you later. You know, one of those things. It wasn't falling over each other or saying, gee, this is the last time we'll see each other. But it really wasn't, because we had to come back and get in costume on a Saturday or a Sunday for a publicity shoot. So that was the day. It just didn't, nobody said, well, it's been fun, you know, 25 years, what do you do now? We didn't put an end to it, I guess.
Well, maybe they didn't put an end to it, but Star Trek VI is being billed as the final voyage, so is it? We're going to put the question to all the cast members when we return, so stay with us. Welcome back to E-Features. This week we're exploring Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Now, since the days when they were largely overlooked as a television series, the Star Trek crew has faced many captivating conflicts, but none can top the plot of Star Trek VI. It's a premise that brings the 25-year history of Star Trek to an explosive climax, and it comes courtesy of Spock himself Leonard Nimoy.
I thought, if we have to close out this thing, and if we're talking about ending and decommissioning the Enterprise, that would be an intelligent reason that would all come to an end. In effect, we've done ourselves out of a job by finishing the battle with the Klingons. And that's where the story came from.
We haven't fired.
Captain, according to our data banks, we have. Twice.
Captain, they're coming about.
I'm a very, very lucky guy. Anybody who would find themselves in my position, 25 years of steady work, steady acceptance out there by the audience, and complain about it, there's got to be something wrong with you. I'm a totally comfortable, happy guy.
Leonard Nimoy should be happy. Not only is Spock a household name, but Nimoy has made a name for himself as one of Hollywood's most sought-after directors. In fact, Star Trek IV, which he directed, was the most successful of the Star Trek films to date. It's been a labor of love for Nimoy, who made some sacrifices as executive producer in order to get this film off the ground.
Bill Shatner and myself and several of the other people took pay cuts. Took less money than we got in the Star Trek IV and Star Trek V, for example, in order to get the movie made.
But Star Trek VI made it to the big screen, and this time with Spock acting as the Federation peacemaker.
I believe the captain feels that Starfleet's mission has always been one of peace. Spock in this movie is different again. That's what I enjoy about moving from one movie to another with his character. He's been different in all his movies. More reflective, sort of older but wiser. Having a new point of view about himself and about his relationships with his friends and others. It's been an interesting trip.
While 1991 triumphantly marked the 25th anniversary of Star Trek, it will also be remembered as the year that the Enterprise lost its most valuable member, Gene Roddenberry. Now, although his face was never before the camera, it was his creative genius behind the scenes that spawned a television series and the motion picture phenomenon that has affected everyone's life. When NASA needed a name for its first space shuttle, 400,000 Star Trek fans wrote in with the answer, and it was dubbed the Enterprise. Such is the impact of an unassuming sci-fi series that inspired a fan loyalty like no other in television or film history. Its worldwide fascination has led to hundreds of Trekker fan clubs and conventions, products ranging from T-shirts to toys, and a Star Trek attraction at Universal Studios. It was there that creator Gene Roddenberry, who passed away in October, explained the Star Trek attraction to audiences.
These million or so people that follow it don't follow it because the actors are the sexiest in the world or it's the best written drama and so on. They follow it because it says things that are near and dear to their heart. It says things that we've got to, all humanity on this planet has got to pull together, got to live together without hatred.
As a man who once conquered the sky as a decorated World War II pilot, it's not surprising that Gene Roddenberry's soaring imagination would later create the Star Trek phenomenon.
Visual. Zulu, divert all power to phasers.
Too late.
Hang on!
But Roddenberry's legacy lives on. He took generations of viewers on a journey into space to boldly go where no man had gone before and introduced a cast of characters whose names became familiar to millions.
Can you give me phaser power?
A few shots, sir.
Not enough against their shields.
The hell are they?
Admiral, the commander of the Reliant is signaling. He wishes to discuss terms of our surrender.
Gene Roddenberry was the force that created Star Trek. His creative abilities and his desire for perfection all made Star Trek so much of what it is. And we're going to miss him very, very much.
He was not only a dear friend of mine, but he certainly changed the course of my life. and in turn change the course of many other people's lives, more than the public will ever know, except those who know themselves. And he will be missed deeply.
Gene and I, we knew each other quite well, and I hadn't known him before Star Trek. You know, I hadn't met him. But we were kind of good buddies. I was a little older than he was, so I was able to tell him off every now and then. You know, to me, I think Gene has left Star Trek in good hands with the people that are in charge now.
Nichelle Nichols' friendship with Roddenberry inspired her to compose and record the song Gene.
It was my tribute to Gene to let him know in all of these 30 years how much I loved him and what I thought of him and what a powerful, wonderful, fantastic man I thought he was and he is. The universe was meant to
Gene Roddenberry lived to see the completed Star Trek VI film, but will this mark the end of the original family that he created? The studio would like you to think so, but what do the members of the Enterprise think?
I love Star Trek, and I love the people in Star Trek, and I'm just, I'm very sad that something like that is over and behind.
I don't think there's going to be Star Trek 7. I mean, I feel fairly confident that this is the last motion picture.
I believe that we are really done. I would bet on it. I would bet my own money on it. Not a lot, but I would bet on it.
It depends on how excited they get about this film. I think it creates a lot of excitement and makes a lot of money for Paramount. They very well could do another one.
And the fact that the end of the film was rewritten, leaving that door open.
Well, the only people that know are the people out there. They are the ones that are going to determine with the kind of support they give us at the box office. And if it's good, yes, look out for Star Trek 7.
One thing's for sure, this is the end of E-Feature Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Now make sure you tune in next week when E-Features another new film. But until then, beam me up, Scotty.